Yeah, now that you say that, I don't see that in here. We don't have
Really?
any grant.
All your
Yeah,
document, it says meeting packet, and it's just got the agenda on it. Hey, Jim.
Hey there.
Okay, we'll just, oh, hi, Jim. We'll just,
Hello.
Laura, can you bring the whole agenda up?
Now it says we are recording.
Yes, we are recording
Okay.
now, and I will share my screen. Let's see.
Should we start over, Julie?
Yeah, probably.
All right. I'll call the meeting to order first.
I'll just note we had a false start at 4:01.
Due to technical difficulties, we're calling the meeting to order for the second time. So the first item up is the approval of the minutes from January 19, and I will entertain a motion.
I move to accept the minutes.
All right. Any second?
This is Kathy. I'll second that. Only thing I want to bring to our attention, with two Olsons at the meeting, maybe we should make sure we put an initial in front of them. Sometimes it says Kathy and sometimes it says Olson, and sometimes it's not.
I thought about that, Kathy, and I will do that going forward, starting today.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. So we have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I guess I should have asked, any discussion at all? Anybody opposed? All right. Motion carries. We are going to move a couple of items up. So I can hand it off. We're going to go down to the Destination Madison update, and I will hand it off to Diane to provide her overview.
Okay, and I am going to make an attempt to share my screen. Let's see if I can figure that baby out today. Why am I not seeing my ability? There we go. Bear with me 1 minute. I am not technically good at any of this.
You can't be any worse than I am.
Don't count on that. Okay, now let's see if we can do a slideshow. Okay. Can everyone see the screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. So today I'm just going to go through a few things by way of update. I know Jamie Patrick has given you a little bit of a sports update recently, so we're going to focus on a couple other areas of the organization. First and foremost, we have a new CEO. She started February 8th, Ellie Westman Chin. She comes to us from Franklin, Tennessee, and she has been in the destination management industry and hospitality industry for many years, working in Atlanta, working in Franklin, and also has done some event planning out of a New York City organization. So brings a tremendous depth of experience in both the conventions world, the leisure world, and the sports world to the table. And I know that at some point I'd love to have her come and meet all of you at one of these meetings. I just wanted to give a little industry overview and a kind of what we're up to these days. Obviously, big priority for us is industry recovery. We have been having weekly meetings with Public Health Madison-Dane County, along with the Hotel and Lodging Association and Hoteliers Restaurant Association, meeting venues, entertainment venues. Who else did we invite to the table? Sports groups and catering executives. And we have been trying to persuade our county health to consider options for helping us plan forward. We feel like we're taking steps, but we really want to have more of a line of sight to what to expect and when we can begin to open up further, especially as it relates to gatherings. We've also worked really hard to try to impress upon them that a gathering that occurs in a professionally run facility versus a gathering in someone's house are two very different things. But so far they have not been willing to let us separate those two out and treat them with some different procedures and operations, but we're going to continue to work on that. We've also been working on some reputation management. Many parts of our community are pretty closed down, and it's not as welcoming an environment for visitors coming into the community, and we are hearing that from time to time. We are concerned about resident sentiment. Are residents ready to have visitors come back? Are they comfortable going out to eat and going out to do things? So all of those things are important, and safety obviously is top of mind for everything. Our viability, we have a new president. We have secured some grant and CARES Act funding, along with just recently some PPP funding. So we've kind of been building a lifeline, but we're managing staff and programs to support our recovery. We are still partially furloughed, with about a third of our staff still are working reduced hours. And we're continuing our DEI initiatives because we recognize how important that is going forward. I just wanted to share the Dane County hotel occupancy information with you. It's it really shows how significant the impact of COVID has been on our hospitality industry and our hoteliers in particular. And I will say
Can you
that
move the slide.
I thought I was moving the slide. Are you seeing hotel occupancy now?
I'm just seeing the landing page,
I
your
had to,
title page.
okay, let me stop sharing and come back in, because I think that's something with my, I had this problem the other day where so you're seeing the landing page now.
I can see them all off to the side, but they're not. There you go.
There we go.
I'm just going to leave it like this because I've got some issue with my Zoom these days. It did this to me the other day too. So I was talking about some of the industry things, but this is the hotel occupancy slide. And obviously the impact is shown, but there's a couple things I want to point out. This is Dane County wide. So when you look, and anything that was closed would be out of the inventory and not counted, which would make the occupancy rates seem higher than they really are. And we also know when we look at segmentation that some aspects, some pieces of our market have been hit significantly harder than others, particularly the downtown city of Madison convention hotels, whose occupancy is not averaging at 20-some%. It's down in, at least in November, December, in the single digits. So one of the things that is really starting to show a little light at the end of the tunnel is how people are feeling about being vaccinated and what the vaccinations will enable us to do. And so this was a survey just done recently by destination analysts to talk about when people expect to be vaccinated. And I think this is important for us because as we get to that point in, say, June, when a significant number of people are vaccinated, I think there will be more opportunity for people to feel comfortable traveling, even if it's by car rather than by plane. But that serves our market well when we can get people in from the region. So I think this is sort of helping to look at that timeline going forward. Some of the things that we talked about at the end of the year were when we would start to see things come forward. And, you know, we've had a really difficult start to this year. We hope that by Q2, we'll start to see the impact of vaccinations, and we'll start to get some of the pent-up demand for travel starting, particularly people wanting to visit friends and family. I think that's going to be the number one thing that starts back up. And then I think as we get into summer, people will begin to take vacations. They will begin to, again, drive time is most likely. But once we hope we get past Labor Day, we'll start to see some restrictions on business travel lifted. Business travel is a really big part of our market share here. And obviously we are hoping that companies will start to feel comfortable allowing their employees to begin travel. Group and events will be definitely latest to come back. And that we're starting to see some cancellations now into the summer. And we've got a couple of big events still on the books for Ironman, CrossFit, World Dairy Expo. They're all still at this point planning to go forward. So we're very hopeful that some aspect of those events will be able to occur. Looking at the convention and sports event sales, these are the realities. We've got cities around us that are opening up who can take, including Milwaukee, that can take groups of up to 250 or more, where we're limited in Dane County, as you know. They're offering incentives for booking business. They're leveraging any safety messaging that they have going on and looking at how to mitigate risks. But meeting planners are also delaying their decisions. They're just kind of holding off because they don't want to plan and then have to plan again. And that's what we're hearing from customers and clients as we talk to them. So this is just a little overview of kind of what we've seen in terms of the volume of cancellations and what's still on the books that we're monitoring really closely for 2021. So really, started 2020 with a, really good number of events on the books, lost most of them obviously after the shutdown. In 2021, we started with 54 events. So a little bit of a softer year on the starting point, but we have had to cancel a number of events already. And so that's what we're really trying to work with those clients to rebook. We are having some success with rebooking, but not necessarily a year out. Sometimes it's more like 2 or 3 years out before we can get back on a rotation with someone. So what we're trying to do as we recover is really make sure we're positioning ourselves well, that we do have risk management and mitigation in place, that we're protecting the safety and comfort of attendees, and we're partnering with others to deliver virtual and hybrid messages and meetings. Creating a collaborative small meetings campaign to sort of, many people have heard of a bring your meeting home for people who are local, who are in an association. We try to have them bring the association meeting in. We're saying if you have a business here and you're going to have a meeting of any kind, keep it here. Put it in one of our hotels, put it in one of our meeting venues, but keep your meeting here. Don't take it to the Dells. Don't take it to Milwaukee. And then redeploying the sales force to really continue to build relationships with meeting planners, to really think regionally, because we know that those are the likely first meetings to come back, to assist clients with booking and repositioning, build the pipeline for the future, and then just keep those connections out there and build those relationships. And a last item on here is something we call Campus Connection, which is really taking advantage of all of the connectivity our faculty at both the UW, Edgewood campus, and Madison College have with associations and organizations, and how can we work the campus to bring other meetings into Greater Madison as well. So I'm going to move a little bit into the marketing activities, and I went a little too fast there. Over the course of the last year, we executed 7+ campaigns. Explore Outdoor Madison was a great joint campaign with Middleton and Verona and Fitchburg and several other communities. But we've also done a lot of things to support the residents and making residents feel comfortable with moving around town. And we're continuing to look at that. Our marketing efforts, the top cities where we had success were within the Greater Madison area, Chicago and Milwaukee. Again, goes back to people being willing to drive somewhere. Outdoor activities were really strong across the board, whether it was social or website, and free things to do, fun things to do, and aspirational on social. A lot of pictures that were kind of beauty shots got a lot of attention. So I think people are trying to be inspired about travel, even if they're not traveling. We had a softer year, not understandably from a media impressions as well, but we still maintained some rankings for best places for pandemic response and resiliency. We know that travel writers aren't traveling right now. So we do have something I'll share with you before we close about how we're trying to work with them to still get them to talk about Greater Madison and all we have to offer, but do it without having to come to Madison. Another thing that we have worked on over the years are our visitor experiences. We do now have reopened our Dane County Regional Airport Information Desk. We are working about 1/3 of the hours we would normally work out there. So again, kind of a soft year in terms of visitor assist. But we have done quite a lot of work enhancing exposure for parks and trails, again, promoting the outdoors, and working with our experienced folks to shift from either take an existing experience and make it into a virtual experience, or create a virtual experience that can be sold, so that we could begin to take advantage of hybrid offerings or virtual offerings to keep those products alive. And that leads me to something that's happening right actually next week, which is a virtual media fam tour. We have about, I believe, 7 to 8 freelance travel writers registered. They will receive 2 lovely packages. One will be some beer from Capital Brewing. The other will be some cheese cheese from Fromagination. And I'm not sure which package the mustard's going in, but mustard will be accompanying this. And there'll be an online virtual event featuring both Fromagination and Capital Brewing to do a beer and cheese pairing. And the freelancers that are coming, I've given you a list of some of the publications that they've been engaged with before. So these are people we have good relationships with. So I think we'll get some nice coverage out of this. And I think it'll be a fun way to bring a taste of Madison to our to media when they can't come and visit. So looking forward to having that happen. And then the event will be repeated again, I believe, in April to a group of women travel writers. So looking to have some fun with that and looking to get some good press from it as well. So we really appreciate Capital Brewing and the National Mustard Museum's participation in that. I think it's going to be really exciting. So at this point, I'd really just like to open it up for questions and just, you know, see if I've got answers. And if not, I will do my best to get answers and get back to you.
Anybody have any questions at all? Otherwise, I can move on if nobody has anything. Thanks for stopping in, for giving us an update. It's always great to hear. Hopefully we can make some kind of headway with the county eventually.
We're working on it very hard. I think the other thing too that we're working on is really looking at what our recovery planning and our strategies will be, and looking at really working with all of our partner communities to help get us through this and get us out of this. We know that there's a lot of hard work to be done, and we're all going to be short on resources. So pooling our resources and working together is going to become really critical as we go forward for the next 6 to 9 months. So I want to just say thank you to Middleton for all the support that you give our organization, and for the great partnership with our marketing team and our PR team in making these things happen. It's really exciting to see. So thank you. And I will sign off.
Thanks again. You have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye, Diane. Good luck
Yeah.
tomorrow with the Tourism Commission.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I already got the numbers. They're really bad.
Well, I'll be there to commiserate with you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Well, I can move us on. Actually, I'm going to hand it off to Mari. Mari gets to work now.
Hey everyone, I just wanted to introduce 2 guests that we have with us today. We asked Belter and Lincoln, who is handling our branding, to stop by tonight and just give you guys a little bit of an update on how far we've come since May, and a little bit about what we've been doing. We have Danielle Fuentes, who is our account supervisor. She is my everything. Anytime I have a question, anytime I need to talk to anybody, it's Danielle. And Garth Kramer, who's the creative director, who's been working on our account this whole time. And I will hand it over to them.
I'm going to try to share my screen here.
Oh, Laura can give you permission if you don't.
Let's try that. Everybody able to see that okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
So just to give you kind of an update of where we are in the process, we've kind of gone through the research and sort of the initial steps. What we're going to share today with you all is the brand framework and kind of the foundation for what will end up being, logo, name, tagline, those kinds of things. So this is all sort of the structure that we use as a jumping off point for all of those things. In the interest of time, I won't go into detail about the results of the research. A lot of that really does play out in what you'll see in the brand framework, and I'll kind of talk through that a little bit. But just to give you kind of a heads up of what we'll be talking about, and I'll try to, because everybody thinks about branding in different ways, give you just some examples for each of these pieces of the brand framework to help you understand how we think about the different things. So starting with the overall project goal, I think pretty obvious things. We want to develop an authentic brand. And, it's establishing all those things that we, expect from a brand, that a name, a logo, style guide, and executed creative. But I think what it comes down to is finding that kind of unique position that we can live in that nobody else can. And I think we're really on a good track to get to that point. So again, our process is called Brand Plus. There's 5 steps. We are kind of right in that development and strategy stage right now. Already kind of moving on to some of those executions, some of those logo options, color options, and those things. But I'm going to share some of the results of what we've done in these initial steps up to this point. So initially, we just took a look at, first top of line, without doing the in-depth research, things right off the bat that we saw as strengths and opportunities. From a strength standpoint, I think already there's, an overall kind of cohesiveness. The It's Better, It's Tastier Here campaign kind of had that unified messaging. So there's some consistency there. There's a good base of assets, I think, photo and video wise, that we noticed. And I think, the general tone matched what our initial findings were when it came to, just visiting and getting a feel for the place. So there's some things that were there that we felt like it was a good starting point. Where we kind of saw some opportunities right off the bat, an opportunity to differentiate from the city of Middleton itself. This is a tourism initiative. And so we want to kind of separate those two and have our own identity. So a unique color palette, kind of unique set of logo and standards. And I think, as I said before, an opportunity to focus that messaging and imagery, really infuse some personality, kind of speak from a specific point of view. And, in our initial findings, that it's always really exciting to kind of uncover some of those things. And we're well on the way to doing that already. But, other things in terms of photography, adding a little bit of context, having a little bit of, a little bit more of those kind of quintessential, only in Middleton kind of moments. And again, focus on those points of differentiation. What sets us apart from, other destinations of similar category. Just to give you a kind of a background of, what we did in total. Again, we went through those initial materials and just kind of looking at where the brand has been up to this point. From a qualitative standpoint, many of you were involved in the workshop, which we really got some great insights from, and thank you to all those who did participate in that. It's great to get some different perspectives from key stakeholders on different levels. And I think what we found from those kind of deeper discussions really mirrored a lot of what we got out of the more quantitative side of it from the survey, the 2 surveys, one, the Survey Monkey and the POCO survey. So what you'll see in some of the brand infrastructure here really comes out of that. So when we talk about the brand infrastructure, I always like to start with core benefits. And I again, just to get everybody on the same page of how we think about that, we think about core benefits in kind of 3 different categories. And I give the example of Miracle Whip as just a placeholder. You know, there's Miracle Whip has functional benefits. There's that kind of tangy zip that it has, right? But it also has, you know, if you're like me, my mom always bought Miracle Whip. So there's an emotional benefit. You know, when I buy this, I feel connected to mom. But there's also that self-expressive benefit. You know, it's unique. So I'm doing my own thing. I'm not like those other mayo people. So these different categories, just from something as simple as a jar of mayonnaise, has all these different aspects to it. Well, Middleton obviously has a lot of nuanced functional, emotional, and self-expressive benefits as well. From a functional standpoint, you know, the idea of a safe community, I can walk down the street and not feel nervous. I think that's a pretty obvious one. I think the proximity to Madison is actually a real benefit because you have, you know, kind of that infrastructure there, and you can encourage tourism that kind of overlaps. You can get a bigger experience than just the one city versus the other. Green space, I think in the surveys and in the discussion really came up huge. Obviously, the trails and the parks, really a tremendous and really unique defining characteristic functionally, but also business friendly. You know, there's kind of these 2 sides to Middleton that we found coming up through and through. And I think that idea of having a place where you can go and enjoy the green space, but also there's shops and, you know, there's this great downtown area that is pedestrian friendly and has some personality to it. It's a great kind of dual threat there. And while great schools isn't necessarily directly tied to tourism, I think the halo effect of, you know, great place to live, great place to visit, just ties into that, a place that you want to be, a place that you want to experience. So those are the functional benefits. Emotionally, you know, there's a real sense of kind of charm. I think, you know, friendly is always a part of the messaging, and that came out in the surveys as well. But there's a kind of a specific type of charm that and sense of community that I think Middleton has that is unique. You know, we'll talk a little bit about it in some of the other aspects of the brand infrastructure, but there's this kind of special timeless quality to the experience that is Middleton. It's this mix of history with forward thinking, and it kind of belies a specific era. And again, you know, I think emotionally, a place that you feel safe, a place that you feel comfortable. It feels like, you know, even if it's not your home, it feels like home a little bit. Self-expressively, how kind of other people view us. You know, I think there's a sense of open-mindedness and forward thinking, maybe a little bit of a halo effect in Madison. There's a, you know, kind of a progressive attitude, entrepreneurial. You know, we do have this great industry, and I think we're very business friendly, which is great for tourism because the downtown has, you know, shops that aren't empty storefronts. We encourage business activity. I think it's very active. I think it's very positive, very, you know, the nature of being able to go out on the trails, and it's very walking friendly. There's an active kind of energy to it. As I mentioned before, this kind of sense of timeless tastefulness. You see it in each, you know, business and the way things are done. There's a little bit of extra tailoredness to it, a little bit of mindfulness. You know, a a town with kind of great historic buildings and kind of this great history could very easily sort of rest on our laurels and, let things, there's plenty of somewhat charming cities in Wisconsin that are kind of have dated themselves or have kind of let these old buildings kind of go to waste, but not here. We are constantly looking to improve and move forward and be innovative and forward thinking without forsaking the history that's such a rich part of who we are. Core values, these are things that we share in common that we care about and also our visitors care about. I just give a quick example of a married couple is a perfect example of core values. Cindy and Greg here, they have all kinds of things that are personal to them and part of who they are, but where they meet are kind of on these main core values that they both care about. We have core values that we share with our audience that we're going to dial up and make a bigger part of what we put out into the world. So Middleton's core values, tradition, again, I think there's a great history and a rich history, and it's visible even in just the architecture, but I think we celebrate that with the Historical Society and some of the things that we talk about on in an outward way. Family, I think, is important, not only from a place to live, but I think it's, again, that halo effect of it's a place that I want to be able to bring my family and, spend a day doing different activities, spend a day out on the trails or shopping downtown or eating at a great restaurant. There's a serenity, again, and I think that's the effect of that great green space that we have and being able to have access to a lake. And there's an ease of getting around, and not only from a functional standpoint, but a personality standpoint. I think there's a sense of welcomeness, that accessibility, which I think really takes the edge off of what could be, perceived as, it's an upper middle class kind of area. So there's some prosperity there, but I think the personality is not sort of snooty or upper crust. There's a real approachability and dependability. And I think there's a little bit of a sense of caring. That's a theme that came up in the surveys as well. We look after each other. Couldn't be more relevant time to have a sense of caring. The brand persona. Now, this is a way to think about this. Is it goes beyond. We're going to talk to a lot of different types of people. But it goes beyond target market or, what our usual most typical visitor. It's really the spirit of the brand. If you imagined Middleton walking into a room and it was a person, what sorts of personality, how would they be dressed? What sorts of fears and goals and strengths would they have? Because the best brands really relate to people on a human level. So we're trying to imbue this brand with as much human characteristic as possible. And what we get from that is it helps us it gives us a litmus test for, what to be and even more importantly, what not to be. It makes those decisions a lot easier when we can put a specific person in our mind, and it keeps us more consistent. And I won't get into it today, again, in the interest of time, but we also use archetypal branding, just storytelling devices that help us tell a little bit more of a colorful story. So, and again, example, just to get it out of our head as a specific demographic or a specific target audience, the example of Porsche, their target audience is probably somewhere in the range of 25 to 55-ish. But the actual owner demographic of Porsche is probably more, between 40 and 68, 70, because you have to have a lot of disposable income to be able to own a Porsche. But they know that when a 25-year-old first sees an ad, what they're aspiring to be one day owning that Porsche is somebody who is a little bit older, a little bit more in charge, a little bit more put together, somebody who has that money and has that assertiveness and experience. So they start to dream about, what it would be like to own a Porsche. And then on the other side of things, that 65-year-old retiree goes and gets out the convertible and takes a spin, feels a little bit younger, right? Feels a little bit more in control, feels a little bit more with it. So that person gets something from that brand persona. So it's the more specific we speak, the gist of it is, the more powerful our brand is, and the more we're able to place ourselves in somebody's head. So Middleton's brand persona is Holly. She's 42. She's a mom. She's got 2 kids and a dog. She's upper middle class. She's a school business professor. She's well educated. She's very worldly. Loves the outdoors. Loves getting out on the trails. Likes to bike and hike. She's a cyclist. She's not a serious boater, but she's a weekend boater. She likes to take the family out. She's got a garden. She grows tomatoes, and she's got this signature spaghetti sauce that's just killer. And she gives it out for Christmas every year. And everybody, I guarantee you, waits for that jar of spaghetti sauce because it's the best that anybody makes. She's likes to teach her kids. She's a U.S. history buff. Her husband owns a bakery, so they've always got fresh baked goods around the house. So Holly really lives the charmed life, and it's her personality that comes out when Middleton speaks. So why Holly? Why do we focus on this? Well, when a 24-year-old IT specialist interacts with Middleton, he feels, again, going back to that Porsche example, he feels a little bit more mature and a little bit more upscale and a little bit more connected to the world around him. But on the other side, when a 68-year-old retiree interacts with Middleton, she feels younger and she feels more active and a little bit more open to new ideas. So all of Holly's open-mindedness, taste, and that approachability, that's the voice that Middleton speaks with. And it gives us that relatable personality that people can identify and remember. Again, it puts us in a specific spot in people's minds. Our core identity is really what drives each and every one of us. There's the core identity and the brand promise. The core identity is that internal, very internal message. It's, people will feel the heat of this, but they may not see the fire, right? Play like a champion is what Notre Dame, anytime their players go out onto the field, before they go out there, they hit this sign, right? They don't put it out as a tagline. It's not, you might see it on a shirt because it's become so famous, but it's really, the purpose of it really isn't an external message. It's an internal rally cry. It's their core identity. It's why they go and do what they do every day. So Middleton's core identity, why we do what we do, is that life as it should be, right? We do everything just so. That attention to detail, I talk about this when, you go to this perfect diner get, and we did do this, so that's why it's always in my head, but to get that perfect omelet done just so, right? That I want that perfect jacket that goes with every outfit. It's taking everything to another level, and as I said before, it's very tailored. This is we're never going to pretend to be the perfect place, but we're definitely going to try. We're going to keep striving towards that. And for visitors, when they come to Middleton, that's a little bit a piece of what that they're getting, right? For a day, I want to live in Mayberry. I want to be in a Hallmark card. I want to be live that perfect life. So that's why we go to work every day and do what we do, because we want life to be as it should be. Now, again, on the external side of that, the brand promise. Way to think about the brand promise, you know, if you think about an oak tree, and there's lots of little leaves and on the ends, and these are all the little messages that we're going to be sending out, lots of different people in lots of different ways and saying a lot of different things. But all of these messages have to flow through that trunk. That trunk is the brand promise. It's the foundation for which all of our external messaging is founded on. And there's a little piece of that in everything that we put out there. So it's not necessarily a tagline per se, but it's sort of the foundation for a tagline or a headline, or when we're writing a script or a press release, there should be a little bit of that brand promise in everything that we do. It's the central message. And Middleton's brand promise is the relentless pursuit of happiness. As I said before, you know, we're striving constantly to create this perfect world. Perfect place to live, perfect place to visit, perfect place to spend a day. And that relentless part of that is that constantly looking forward. How can we make this better? What can we do to, you know, what's a solar initiative that will help make this world a better world? What's a way that we can improve our parks? What's a way to attract better businesses and even the businesses themselves? How can I make the experience better for my visitors? How can I get better products or create a better omelet? There's a constant need to up our game and because we are relentless, we'll never be satisfied, but to strive toward that perfection, to strive to create that perfect world. So again, not a tagline, but it's the idea behind all of that messaging that we put out into the world, that idea of constantly trying to improve and make it a better place to be. And finally, the brand essence. This is when we boil it all down. What's that human need that we're satisfying? What is it that we are selling? And I always give these examples of just famous brands that people know, because, you know, Pepsi, they sell a fizzy, sugary beverage, but really what they're selling and really what they've always sold is youth, right? Be young, have fun, drink Pepsi. Choice of a new generation. The human need that they're satisfying is that need for youth and to feel young. Harley, they sell motorcycles, but what they're really selling is freedom. You know, get out on the open road, forget your cares, don't live in a cage, don't live in a box, get out and you know, express your freedom. And Lego, you know, they sell little overpriced blocks, but what they're really selling is creativity, you know, possibilities of what can I make today. So these kind of deeper human needs that we're satisfying. And for Middleton, it's a timeless charm, right? We will not be pigeonholed into a specific era. We have a great sense of who we are and where we've been and the history. And we have these beautiful buildings that are historic, but these aren't museum pieces. These aren't, places to look at or to let rot. These are opportunities to create an experience that is new and fresh and exciting. We are constantly looking forward. So it's this mix of the old and the new, and it's something that transcends a time period. It's something that, when we put that extra care into every little detail, that extra thoughtfulness, this is what comes out. It's that timeless charm that is hard to put your finger on, but when you experience it, and having experienced it as a visitor myself, something that we all felt immediately. So when we boil it all down, that's what it's about. So that's kind of the foundation for which we'll base our logo work, our naming, tagline, if we decide to pull the trigger on that, and all the messaging that follows, all the imagery and everything that we put into the brand standards will come out of this brand infrastructure. So for next steps, again, as I said, naming exploration, which some of these we've already are well on our way towards, logo concepts, color palette, style guide, and some example ads just to give it some life and help kind of understand ways that we can leverage this brand infrastructure. That's all I have. Any questions? I know that was a lot. I try to keep it as short as possible, but I get really into these things, so.
Well, so much of the work was done in phase 1 and 2, so it is a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
that was months worth of work. So thank you very much. Did any of the commission members have questions for the team before we let them go? I'm seeing shaking heads. So, well, if nobody has any questions, thank you so much, Garth, Danielle.
Thank
we appreciate you guys giving
Thank
us your time.
Yeah, thank you. We're looking forward to sharing the next phases with you too.
Yeah, very excited.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks a
everyone.
lot. Thanks for joining us. Great.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now I think we can kind of circle back to the start. So we did the minutes. So then the next item up would be our hotel updates. Same as last month. We're seeing an uptick on the weekend. I think it's kind of a disaster during the week with corporate travel being more or less non-existent. So that really hasn't changed at all. I will say just because we have properties downtown and on the east side, the west side hands down is suffering more than downtown, at least in our experience anyway, and our east side properties are doing considerably better than we are on the west side. I really don't know the reason for it. Probably from a lot of the business that I particularly work with is that they can stay downtown for cheaper than the rates they would normally stay on the west side. So they're kind of taking advantage of location, is really all it is. I really don't have a whole lot to report, to be quite honest. I don't know, Jim, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, it's pretty much just more of the same here. We're still struggling as far as occupancy goes, whether it be weekend or weekday. we've got, again, a few trade show type events that are going to be going on within, April, May, but there's not sizable room blocks, as I stated before, with those either. So, there's just, there's not a whole lot positive to report in the short term. Although the raising of the limit of the group gathering limit to 50 people, that should enable us to at least gather some revenue here at the hotel that way. But in terms of impact to the area and bringing people into these sleeping rooms in Greenway Station and Middleton as a whole, it really won't affect that.
Yeah.
Is that mostly
Julie,
local business meetings, Jim?
It is.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
I've been driving around over towards Greenway. Have they been hurt? A lot of the stores been hurting over there? Because when I've been over there, the parking lots seem busier than I think they should be, or.
Probably have a right to be.
But I mean, they don't look empty. And I'm talking at the stores, not at the hotels. The hotels
Right.
it kills me when I drive by the hotels.
I did notice on my drive around this weekend that there were considerably more cars at all of the properties, and I just chalked it up to Valentine's Day weekend. Maybe people just doing a staycation, but going somewhere and getting out of the house for an overnight.
We definitely had an uptick. We almost sold out at the AC on Saturday night. Just downtown Valentine's. That's all it was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Julie, did you have anything you wanted to add at all?
We do have a couple of things for you, Corey. Laura, I'll let you go ahead and speak to the building renovation project and the updates there.
Yeah, so sorry about that.
Is there a train going through?
I know.
It's supposed to be where I am.
It's
I was like sound
ring.
effects.
Yeah, I might have to unplug it. It's a ring notification. So the windows are hopefully going to be installed tomorrow and Thursday. So we're getting new windows. I'm happy to have that project finally come to fruition. We have been interviewing designers for the back portion of the building to have that remodeled, and proposals we should have all of them for the actual floor design by the end of this week. And then we've kind of put together a tentative timeline, and we are hoping to get those, excuse me, out to bid next month. So we'll begin that bidding process with the city. And then ideally, we would like to be completed with the entire remodel by, I think we had slated June. So I think that's all I had. The flooring looks good. I mean, that was obviously priority number one, and that's looks good, and we're happy to have that finished.
It's moving right along.
Yep.
Thank you for keeping
Just
us.
as long
on
as Julie doesn't make us move her desk again, I'll be happy.
Actually, you're going to have to. We might just move that out the door and look at another piece of furniture, right? Thanks, Laura.
Yeah.
Just a couple of quick things from me. A reminder that commission appointments are on an annual basis. I believe that the mayor sent out a letter to everybody the week of February 2nd. You do need to reapply if you are interested in serving for another year, which I sincerely hope everybody would like to come back and continue to be part of this. The deadline for those submissions is March 31st. The council tonight is going to be doing a second reading of the ordinance relating to appointment procedures and terms for city boards, committees, and commissions. We talked about this last month. There's just a slight change on the definition of the hotel motel member for tourism. And correct me if I'm wrong, Kathy, but if there's a motion to approve this evening, does it move forward then, or is there another step in the process?
No, then it would move forward. What we will be talking about, there was adding non-voting high school members to one-year terms to 4 different committees, and the Committee on Youth made a recommendation to remove that you have to be an adult to serve on any of the committees. So we'll be talking about that tonight too, whether we want to allow voting members to be under 18 on committees.
Okay. Any questions for Kathy on that ordinance? Otherwise, hearing none, I'll keep rolling here. Payment Protection Program Forgivable Loan. I've been mulling this over since I sat in on a webinar back in January when it became available to DMOs and quasi-government DMOs, which we qualify as. And Bill and I wanted to wait until we saw what the fourth quarter results were. I'm not going to go into that tonight, but they're grim, and our revenue situation is going to be, as Diane mentioned for Destination Madison, grim for at least the first 2 quarters of this year, and maybe in the back half as well. So we're going to go ahead and move forward with applying for a loan. Bill, Mike Davis and I met with the lender this morning and talked through some of the criteria and what we need to do to get this application rolling. Bill's taking the lead on this project for us because, as you might imagine, there's a lot of financial information that's requested. We did learn today that we can either have this cover us for 8 weeks or 24 weeks. So we're working through that and trying to decide what's the best approach here. We're not going to be able to apply right away for the second round of PPP because you have to spend the first round before you can get the funds for the second round. By the time we get this rolling and we get any funds, it will probably be in the first week of March. The window closes on March 31st. But bottom line is, I believe we're going to be able to get some relief through this forgivable loan. So more to follow on that next month, unless we determine that we have to have a sign off by the Tourism Commission. Right now, we're talking about just having me sign as the director. If we determine that we need approval of the commission to move forward with this, we'll have to call a special meeting. So I will let you know as soon as I possibly can, hopefully by the end of the week, what direction we're going in here, and then put a doodle poll out with some options for a meeting. Any questions on PPP? Okay. That's all I have, Corey.
All right. I will then move us into the 2021 Open Air Classic Tour. I just want to kind of cue this one up. When we approved this, things were kind of different at that point. This one was approved for 5,000, and we did. They are rescheduling, if I'm remembering correctly. So I kind of feel like we need to take a deeper dive into this to see if budget's adjusted and that kind of thing, and maybe not saying we don't approve, but just to reconsider the amounts and everything, and kind of see what we come up with.
Laura, if you'd like to bring up the budget that the organizers submitted, that might be a good starting point, Corey. And Jim, do you have anything you want to say about the group before we move on to talking about?
Yeah, I mean, they've got history in our backyard here, so this would be at least the second, if not the third time they've hosted it here in Middleton. It does travel around the state. He is a travel writer. They contracted over 600 room nights. The last time that they were with us, they picked up, 540, so about 90% of their block. They're on the road. They do have one catered meal with us. Otherwise, the other 2 nights that they'd be in Middleton, they'd be on their own for their meals and for their entertainment. So that's what I know.
If we did look at reducing the grant, is that going to hurt? Like anything? Like any feedback on that? And I'm just looking at it like right now we have our fund, but we're also applying for funds, and generally when you're applying for funds, you don't have funds, we're looking at cutting wherever we can.
For sure.
And I just kind of feel like we're gonna have to look at everything this year at that, like that as well.
I should mention that related to PPP, it is for payroll and or operational expenses. So those are the areas that we would be trying to cover with the loan. Having said that, we do have $26,300 budgeted. We had $30,000 budgeted for tourism grants. However, we have a commitment for a group that's scheduled to come in June, the Midwest Tool Collectors Association spring meeting, which I think Jim is they're still hanging in there.
They are.
So that gives us $26,300 to work with. So just so you know, we do have funds in there. To Corey's point, as I started going through the budget that the organizers submitted, I think there are some things that we could say no to on this list. I don't know if you all can read what's on the screen or if you have a copy in front of you, but I'll go down here real quickly. The first item is brochure printing, mailing and promotion. Yes, I think we could support that. Ads, social media, support that. Ads, radio and print publications, yes. Roadmaps and guides, they do put our logo on that, so I would support that. Posters, signage at the hotel. Again, all of these items would have our logo on it. The next item here is designer t-shirts. I put a question mark here because I know they do wear these throughout the weekend that they're here. I'm not sure that it's worth $1,500 for us. Tour amenities, the same thing. I'm guessing these are giveaway items that are in their welcome bag. He's got $1,000 for that. Put a question mark on that one. Welcome reception, I'm suggesting we do not help offset the expenses for that. And that also includes music, band, entertainment. My conversations with the organizer, Jim, we don't even know what that's going to look like.
Yeah, my last conversation with him was also to the effect that, how do we do the dinner? It's 400 people in a demographic that's high risk. And I had suggested that, one of our sister properties for a holiday party out in Albuquerque, that was going to cancel, but the company still wanted to do something nice for their employees. They set up a drive-through meal pickup at the main lobby of the hotel. So they still provided a meal, no entertainment for the people. But so anyways, I pitched him on that idea. They still may get meals from us, but he is aware of the fact that if they choose to not put 400 people or try to do, a 400-person dinner split into 50-person pods or whatever the rules might be at that time,
Yeah.
that we're not going to ding them for not achieving their food and beverage minimum. Bring the people, put them in our hotel rooms. They'll drink at our bar, they'll drink in Greenway Station, they'll eat in Greenway Station. Is more or less what we're concerned about at this point, is to not lose the entirety of the tour itself.
Okay. Routing and setting of the routes. I don't think we need to be part of that. Awards, dash, plaques, certificates, can probably pass on that. Services, AV, setup, rentals. He's only asking for $100 here. And depending on what they're doing, Jim, that might be something that we could help a little bit with. Social media contest prizes. Yes, I think the stipulation will be that our logo is on the prize somehow. And then additional printing, tickets, car numbers, some of those logistical things. He's only asking for $100 there. I said no to volunteer expenses, meals, etc. So that comes up to $2,400. If we decided that we wanted to go ahead and give them some additional money to put toward the t-shirts or the tour amenities, they're asking for $1,500, maybe we agree to $600 or $500 or round it up to $3,000. or we keep it at the 24. And I did tee it up with him that our revenue stream has been severely impacted by COVID, and you know, there may be some challenges meeting the total request.
Julie, are the posters, flyers, and signs, banners, are they all at the hotel or are they around the city?
To the best of my knowledge, they're at the hotel. Now they might do some signage at their stops along the way, because they play like a traveling bingo. And they have all of these stops that they have to make during the course of the weekend that they're here.
Right. I could see give them some money to do that, but the posters and the signs at the hotel, they're already here. So
I mean,
I'd rather
that's
spend
something
money.
that we usually ask them to put our logo on. It's just another touch
No.
point for us.
No, and I get that, but just trying to reduce some costs,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
I'd rather have them do something that more people out in the public would see than sitting inside the hotel in the state that we're in right now.
Right. And I could clarify that with him, Susan.
That's just my opinion.
No, that makes sense.
And I agree with you on the music and the band. I mean, the welcome reception. Do they really wear the t-shirts?
I've seen photos of them all wearing the t-shirts.
But they might wear them back at home, which promotes us.
I'm sure, you know, and if they're collectors, they probably have all their t-shirts from when they started their first tour up until the present.
I would probably give them $1,000 for
You know,
that.
if it's a nice t-shirt, they're wearing it.
Yep. I just think of how many times I wear that darn swimming t-shirt. So I mean, I just,
I'm the same
to
way.
to me, they wear that in public and outside of Middleton and maybe when they get back home. So people would see that. So to me, that is a billboard, a walking billboard for us. But that's my 2 cents, Corey and Julie.
So we're roughly around 2,000 then?
If we did all of the things that I listed initially, that came up to 2,400, and that's without the t-shirts.
Okay.
Any of the tour amenities, which again, I'm guessing are giveaway items. Any of the expenses that are related to the reception and awards and volunteer meals.
So I guess, I don't know, I guess Julie, you talked to them, like, do you have any, are they just kind of going to be happy to just get something at this point, do you know, or?
I think he would be happy to get something. I mean, of course, they always want the same thing that you were going to give them the previous year.
Right.
But as I said, I did try to let him know that there were going to be some concerns with what we have available to spend. And if we cover their marketing costs, that's about half of what he's asking for.
Right.
And again, not knowing whether some of these other things are even going to occur or not.
Right.
I would remind the commission that we changed our grant criteria, and we are no longer providing the grant in advance of the event. We are now waiting for them to submit a summary and an itemized budget with expenses prior to the payment being dispersed. So if we wanted to call out some of these things specifically, I would be looking for those on the back end.
Okay. I don't know, with all that being said, does somebody have a motion or do you have any more questions?
So what dollar amount are we approving? I'm sorry.
Oh, whatever we come up with, I think.
Yeah,
I think the consensus is
based
that we
on,
reduce it.
based on my initial calculations, that came to $2,400. If you want to add in more for the shirts, that would be up to you. They were asking for 1,500 for shirts.
Yeah, I
And the
mean,
2,400 that you're saying does not include the shirts.
That's correct.
We had approved for 6,000 or 5,000?
5.
5. Yeah, if you look at his budget, he's actually got more on here than 5,000, but he notes what he would be primarily spending this on.
So, I mean, I would toss out 34. And I hear what you're saying though, Corey, we are looking at potentially taking out a loan, right?
Right. I mean, that's why I'm not saying that we should nix it all together. I'm just saying from the hotel perspective, which obviously translates into the room tax, it's horrible. I mean, and
Yeah.
like the projections are down, and I would be surprised if we're not continuously looking at these numbers throughout the year and being put into positions to cut. I mean, this is a budgeted item, but I just think we're kind of, like I said, with grants, you got to be careful, because if we have to look to cut stuff out, what if it came down to cutting out a marketing piece versus a grant, or something
Right.
like that. I just think we just need to be careful with and review everything.
Well, if we do half of it, it's 2,500.
Mhm.
What do you think, Jose?
I think half of it, it's if they're willing to get whatever they can, right, without us risking they won't ever come back into town. Is that what we're talking about? I think half of what they got previously would be more than generous.
I think one thing that I would point out is that last month we talked about the grant for MASC and the Curling Association. I mean, the big differentiator in my mind is that that's a potential piece of business. This is already booked. Now it's coming back and they're returning. And I think they, as soon as they postponed, they rebooked almost immediately. But it is already contracted.
I hate them. I mean, they should. Go ahead, Jose.
I think I will entertain the notion to give him just half of it, 2,500. I don't know if anybody will second that, but I think that that's what we're talking about, right?
Mhm.
We need to cut some money wherever we can, and if we don't think that all those things are necessary anymore, like Julie mentioned, I think you say yours add up to 2,400, right, Julie?
Yes.
So I'll entertain a motion for giving them the 2,500.
I'll second that.
All right. So motion and a second. Is there any further discussion, or anybody have any questions?
I just want to ask Jose if you want to stipulate that it be spent on marketing related items and or activities.
I was under the impression that you were suggesting to point those
Okay.
things you mentioned.
Okay,
Yes.
so can I note that as part of the motion?
Sure. Please do.
That will help, I think, clarify things for the organizer.
Yeah, I agree.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Anybody oppose? All right. Carries at 2,500.
Okay, I will let him know tomorrow. Thank you.
Where did my stuff go? There we are. So then I think the last item up is just a note on the trolley agreement.
Yeah. I had a meeting with Mike Davis and the city attorney after our last meeting and shared with them what our conversation had been about the trolley, that there was a strong desire to pause the trolley for the remainder of the year, which led us into a pretty lively discussion about the agreement itself and the language that's in the agreement. The recommendation at that point was that I just go back and talk to the vendor and try to get a sense of what the vendor might be thinking, knowing that this pandemic is probably going to have an impact on business through the summer and possibly into the fall. So John and I talked. Bottom line for John is he'd really like to just wait and see what things are looking like when we hit the month of May. If anything has turned around and it looks like we might be able to do something on a limited basis, run it on the weekends. I just don't think he's ready to use a popular phrase, throw in the towel at this point in the game. So we agreed to reconvene around the middle of May to take a look at where we're sitting and make some assessments at that point. My contention is that we are not performing, we're not going to be able to perform. And if that is still the case, we need to talk about next steps in what we're going to do with the agreement. I don't think I want to go any further than that, because if we reach that point, this is something we can go into a closed session and discuss, because we're already talking about an existing agreement. I think the best approach right now would be for me to stay in contact with the city attorney as we're getting closer to April, and watch what the trends are doing, take a look at what we've got on the books for business, and then make a hard decision if we have to at that point. I hate to kick the can down the road quarter by quarter, but I think right now it probably makes the best sense.
Yep. I
No,
agree.
as somebody that's had hundreds of contracts canceled on me in the last 9 months, yeah, it hurts to kick the can down the road, but it's even harder putting myself in John's shoes, I think, to cut bait on it right now. You know what I mean? Like we're not there yet. So I understand where he's coming from, and you know, I think we're doing it the right way. I think it's the fairest thing to do for John too. I mean, and one side of the thing, we all know the likelihood of us being able to perform anytime this year is very low, but you know, I do think it's still the right thing to do for the vendor too.
Yeah, I agree. So
All
that's all I've got on that, Corey.
Moving on then, as long as we don't have any other questions on that, that moves us into anything for our next meeting, any items.
I'm going to add 2020 budget review. I was hoping to be able to do that this month, but the final numbers aren't in yet. I mean, the room tax collections are horrible, and we can review that next month. But I want to give you some sense of where we ended up at the end of the year as it relates to the shortfall and what we're taking out of the reserve.
Anyone have anything else?
When is that new hotel opening up? The one that's over by Spectrum?
Oh, they got a long ways to go yet. I don't even think they have the exterior on. I want to say this summer, maybe I saw an update, but I'm not positive.
I think Laura's got an update on that.
Yeah, fall. I think
The fall.
September is the last I've heard. So
It just looks more and more like a hotel every day. And I drove by it yesterday and it was like, really? We needed a hotel like a hole in the head. Sorry. I knew it was there,
Timing-
but now it
timing
really
would-
looks like one.
The timing would seem bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I drive by, you know, the other new one in the area, and there's just nothing over there, too.
Over the one by, off of
Yeah, the Holiday Inn.
14. Yep.
Yeah, we definitely. I'll just leave it at that.
Probably wise.
Yeah. Other than that, then I guess we'll just entertain a motion to adjourn.
I gotta get ready for my next meeting. It starts at 7. So I'm ready.
All
I
right.
move to adjourn.
1 second.
Sir, Jim, okay.
Awesome. Well, it was a good meeting. We almost
right.
got him. We were kind of on time. It was a shorter one, so
We were.
everyone have a good night.
Yeah, have a good
All
night.
right. Thank
You
you. Nice
too.
job, you
Bye.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you. Stay warm. Heat waves on the way.
Woohoo.